The banquet hall at the country club was packed with Dad's colleagues, clients and friends. 100 people gathered to celebrate his retirement from 35 years of accounting. The slideshow behind the podium cycled through photos. Dad with certificates, Dad at firm parties, Dad shaking hands with partners. I sat 3 tables from the front, wedged between Uncle Ray and a senior partner's wife I'd met exactly once. My brother Kevin held court at the head table, right beside Dad, exactly where the successful child belonged. 35 years. Dad's managing partner stood at the podium. Chen has been the backbone of this firm. Meticulous, dedicated, the very definition of professional excellence. Applause rippled through the room. Dad beamed, soaking it in. But Robert's greatest pride isn't his professional achievements, the partner continued. It's his family. His son Kevin, a mechanical engineer at Boeing, and his daughter Sarah, who's still exploring her options. Still exploring. At 33 years old, after 9 years of running Titanwell, I was still exploring my options. Kevin stood when prompted, waving to polite applause. Thanks everyone. Dad taught me the value of a stable career, real benefits and steady progression. Those lessons shaped who I am today. Real benefits. Steady progression. The subtle digs at my unstable tech career were always wrapped in praise for Kevin's conventional path. Dad took the microphone, his face flushed with pride and whiskey. Thank you all for coming. 35 years went by fast. But what matters most is family. My son Kevin, who followed a proper career path. Engineering degree from Georgia Tech, 10 years at Boeing, working on actual airplanes that actual people fly on. That's tangible. That's real. He paused, looking directly at me. And my daughter Sarah, who's still finding herself in the tech world. We don't always understand what she does, but we support her journey wherever it leads. Still finding herself. My company had 567 employees and $890 million in annual revenue, but sure, still searching for my path. Uncle Ray leaned over. What is it you do exactly, Sarah? Something with computers. I run an AI company, I said simply. Machine learning infrastructure for enterprise clients. He nodded blankly. That's nice, dear. Good, you have something to keep you busy. Something to keep me busy. Titan ML powered AI operations for 412 companies including Microsoft, Amazon, and half the Fortune 100. But yes, just a hobby to pass the time. I checked my phone discreetly. My CFO, NASDAQ approved. IPO launches Monday 9:30 a.m. Already 47% oversubscribed. This is going to be massive. I texted back. Perfect timing. Dad was still talking. Kevin's given me 2 beautiful grandchildren. He's bought a house, a real house with a mortgage and a yard. He drives a sensible car and has a retirement plan. That's the American dream, folks. That's success. The implication hung heavy, and Sarah has none of those things. Now Sarah's taken a different path, Dad continued, his tone shifting to that concerned father voice. She's been doing this internet startup thing for almost a decade now. Working from coffee shops, taking meetings on her laptop. No office, no structure, no real advancement. But she seems happy, and that's what matters. No office. Titan ML's headquarters occupied 4 floors in downtown San Francisco. No structure. We had 7 departments and a rigorous quarterly OKR system. No advancement. I'd gone from solo founder to CEO of a company valued at $4.2 billion. But I'd learned years ago that explaining this to my family was pointless. They saw what they wanted to see. Kevin's wife Michelle leaned over to whisper something to him. They both glanced at me and smiled sympathetically. The poor, struggling sister. The one who never figured it out. At least your brother has a proper career. Dad announced suddenly, raising his glass toward Kevin. Real engineering work. Real paychecks. Real security. That's what I tried to teach both my children, but... He shrugged, letting the sentence hang. The room tittered with uncomfortable laughter. A few people looked at me with pity. I just smiled and waited. Dad's colleague Tom stood up, slightly drunk. To be fair, Robert, the tech thing might work out eventually. My nephew does website design. Makes decent money. Maybe Sarah could try something like that. More stable than startups. That's actually good advice, Dad said earnestly. Sarah, you should look into that. Web design, maybe some IT support work. Use those computer skills in a stable job. I checked my phone again. My head of PR. Wall Street Journal wants first interview Monday morning. CNBC requested you for opening bell ceremony. This IPO is going to break records. The slideshow behind Dad shifted to family photos. Kevin's wedding. Kevin's kids. Kevin's new house. Then a photo of me from 5 years ago sitting at a coffee shop with my laptop. The caption read, Sarah, still figuring it out. Still figuring it out. While Kevin posed with his engineering awards, I was captioned as lost. Sarah never wanted the corporate path, Dad explained to his enraptured audience. She dropped out of Stanford after 3 years. Broke our hearts, honestly. Said she wanted to start a company. We begged her to finish her degree, get a real job, but she was stubborn. I dropped out because Titan ML had secured $12 million in series of funding and I needed to scale fast. By the time my classmates were graduating, I was managing 40 employees and $30 million in revenue. We've accepted that she's just different, Mom added from her seat, dabbing her eyes. Not everyone can be like Kevin. Some people need to wander before they find their way. Wander. 9 years of building, scaling, and dominating the enterprise AI infrastructure market. But sure, wandering. Uncle Ray patted my hand. Don't feel bad, sweetie. Not everyone's cut out for traditional success. The important thing is you're trying. I checked my watch. 7:43 p.m. 17 minutes until the market summary reports aired on the large screens throughout the country club. They always played the evening financial news during dinner events. I do worry about Sarah's future, Dad continued, his voice taking on a maudlin quality. No husband, no kids, no house. Just that laptop and her dreams. I mean, it's admirable to chase dreams, but at some point you have to grow up and face reality. Kevin nodded solemnly. I've tried to give Sarah advice. Boeing has IT positions, stable government contract work, great benefits. But she wants to do her own thing. Independent to a fault, Dad agreed. Just like when she was little. Always had to do things her way, even when her way was harder. The room murmured sympathetically. Poor Sarah. So stubborn. So lost. A colleague of Dad's stood up. Robert, you did your best. Some kids listen, some don't. At least you have Kevin to be proud of. At least you have Kevin. I glanced at the screens mounted around the banquet hall. They were showing sports highlights, but in 13 minutes they'd switch to the financial news summary. In 13 minutes, everything would change. Sarah, honey, Mom called down to my table. Are you still doing that machine learning thing? Or did you move on to something else? Still machine learning, I said calmly. Well, that's good. Consistency is important. She turned to her neighbor. She's been working on the same project for years. I keep telling her to try something new if that's not working out, but she's persistent. Not working out. Last quarter we processed 847 billion computational requests and generated $234 million in revenue. But clearly not working out. Dad was winding down his speech. In conclusion, I'm grateful for my career, my colleagues, and my family. Kevin, you make me proud every single day. And Sarah, he raised his glass toward me. I hope you find what you're looking for someday. I really do. The room applauded. Kevin stood for a bow. I remained seated watching the clock. 7:47 p.m. The screens switched from sports to the CNBC evening market summary. The anchor's voice filled the room. And now, tonight's major market news. I pulled out my phone and opened the Titan ML investor portal, refreshing it. In a highly anticipated move, the anchor continued. Titan ML, the enterprise AI infrastructure company, filed for IPO this evening. The company, which provides machine learning operations for major tech giants, is seeking a valuation of $4.2 billion. The conversations in the banquet hall quieted. Several people glanced at the screens. Titan ML's founder and CEO, Sarah Chen, age 33. Every head in the room turned toward me in perfect synchronization. Will become one of the youngest female billionaires in tech when the IPO launches Monday morning. The company reported annual revenue of $890 million and serves 412 enterprise clients including Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. Dad's wine glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. The screen showed my official headshot, the one from last month's Fortune feature. Then footage of our San Francisco headquarters, our engineering team, our server farms. Industry analysts predict Titan ML's IPO will be one of the most successful tech launches this year. the anchor continued. Chen, who dropped out of Stanford to found the company 9 years ago, has bootstrapped her way to building the dominant player in AI infrastructure. Uncle Ray's mouth was hanging open. That's you. That's our Sarah. Chen's personal stake is estimated at 62%, the anchor said. At the proposed $4.2 billion valuation, that puts her personal net worth at approximately $2.6 billion. Mom made a sound like all the air had left her body. The screen shifted to an interview clip, me at last month's tech summit, discussing the future of enterprise AI. We built Titan ML to solve a real problem, my voice echoed through the silent banquet hall. Every major company needs AI infrastructure. We made it accessible, scalable, and reliable. Kevin had gone pale. His wife Michelle stared at her phone, frantically Googling. Titan ML's client list reads like a who's who of tech, the anchor continued. The company's machine learning platform processes over 847 billion requests monthly, making it the backbone of AI operations for much of the Fortune 100. Dad's colleague Tom was reading from his phone now, his voice shaking. Sarah Chen, Forbes 30 Under 30, TechCrunch Founder of the Year, MIT Technology Review Innovator. She's been featured in every major publication. Chen has been notoriously private about her success, the anchor said. Despite running a company valued in the billions, she's maintained a low profile and rarely gives interviews. Monday's IPO will thrust her into the spotlight as one of tech's most successful female founders. The screen showed our Q3 earnings, the $234 million revenue figure displayed in stark white numbers. Uncle Ray turned to me slowly. Sarah, that's your company. Titan ML is your company. Yes, I said simply. You're worth, the news said, approximately $2.6 billion, assuming the IPO price is as expected. Could be more if we're oversubscribed, which we currently are by 47%. Dad found his voice barely. The machine learning thing. The coffee shop laptop work. That was this. Yes. Kevin's voice was hollow. You employ 567 people. You serve half the Fortune 100. You built this while we thought you were unemployed. Not unemployed. Just underestimated. Mom was crying, her carefully applied makeup running. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say you were successful? I did tell you. 9 years ago I said I was starting a company. You said I was wasting my Stanford education. 7 years ago I invited you to our Series B celebration. You were busy with Kevin's promotion dinner. 5 years ago I mentioned Microsoft was our client. Dad changed the subject to Kevin's new car. The banquet hall was completely silent except for the CNBC broadcast. At every turn, I continued, my voice steady, you decided my success was impossible. So you simply didn't see it. You saw what you wanted to see, the daughter who couldn't figure out life. The one who wasn't like Kevin. Michelle was scrolling through article after article on her phone. There's a Wired profile from last year. A Bloomberg feature. She testified before Congress about AI regulation. She's on advisory boards for Stanford and MIT. Sarah, Dad's voice cracked. In my speech I said you were still finding yourself. I said you had no real advancement. You said I was still exploring my options, I finished. You said Kevin had a proper career and I didn't. You said at least you had one successful child. I stood up, gathering my purse. You said all of that to a room full of people about a woman who built a multi-billion-dollar company from nothing. We didn't know, Mom sobbed. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. Tom was still reading from his phone. The Wall Street Journal called you the most important founder in enterprise AI. MIT said you're reshaping how the world thinks about machine learning infrastructure. I pulled up my calendar on my phone. I need to leave. I have the opening bell ceremony at NASDAQ on Monday morning, followed by interviews with the Journal, Bloomberg, and CNBC. My IPO roadshow starts Tuesday, meetings with institutional investors across 5 cities. Typical stuff for someone still finding herself. Sarah, please. Dad stood reaching for me. Let me fix this. Let us be part of your success. Let us be part of it. I looked around the room, at the colleagues who'd pitted me, the family who'd dismissed me, the brother who'd used my supposed failure to elevate his own mediocre achievements. You had 9 years to be part of it. 9 years to ask questions, to show interest, to believe in me. You chose to mock me instead. Kevin finally spoke. The Boeing job offer. That's her. I told my boss's daughter she should study engineering because it was more stable than your tech stuff. My boss's daughter is now interviewing at Titan ML for a machine learning position that pays more than I make. She's very qualified, I said. We'd be lucky to have her. I headed toward the exit. The entire banquet hall watched in silence. At the door I turned back. Oh, and Dad? Congratulations on retirement. I'm sure your 35 years of accounting work was very fulfilling. My 9 years of internet startup thing just created 567 jobs, $890 million in annual revenue, and $2.6 billion in personal wealth. But at least Kevin has a proper career. The last thing I heard was Mom's voice. We've lost her. Robert, we've completely lost her.